This is our first Bloom Where You're Planted live. Jannie's obviously done a lot of stuff with us before, but we're going to try to do sort of live versions of her columns. So we have a PowerPoint we're going to go through, but it's a kind of a freewheeling. Also, we're going to have a couple themes, which is about harvesting seeds and what are good bugs, bad bugs, sort of thinking about in your yard. And then permaculture. But it's also time to ask questions of Jannie. She's here, she does that weekly column, so she obviously knows a lot about planting and permaculture. And if you want to, I'll stop this maybe about 5 minutes early, and people who haven't seen our Back to Basics area, if you want to go take a little tour, we have a lot of books back there. Permaculture books like the Map Power books, which is one of the people Janie's going to be talking about, are in the 635 code area for nonfiction. So 635, either in Back to Basics or in the regular, is where we have his gardening books. So I will turn it over to you and let you get started.
You guys mind if I sit down? Just sit here. Okay. We dug until all weekend. I'm tired.
You want to get closer?
I can see. You want to turn on lights or? You want to turn on lights or?
It's up to you guys. Do you guys want lights on or lights off for
Can you see?
Can you see with or without?
I don't care.
Sorry. That's because it's a little bit dimmer that way.
I can relate.
Just to let you know, I am filming,
I'm
but
down,
basically
don't
sort of
make
capture what
sure
Jannie's saying. I'm just getting the backs of your heads. So unless you turn around and look fully at the camera, you won't be on camera.
Oh, okay. We can make little animals.
That's right. Little shadow puppets.
Yes.
So this is. This is a picture of, she came over and we did photographs of our property. Okay, so we started with just a corner lot with, it was heavily mowed. There wasn't any place on it that didn't have black plastic on it. It had like 2 old historical pecan trees, an elm tree, and 1 peach tree that died. And so we've been slowly, my daughter and I, we've been restoring this property. And I really started with my own family history, but then I also started with Master Gardeners. And then I graduated out of Master Gardeners, and I've been doing permaculture and reading Bill Mollison for years. And then I had the opportunity to go to school. So I went to Earth Repair Corps in Blanco 2 years ago. And I would go and stay the weekend. I was just kind of camp out by the river. I didn't want to drive back and forth to Blanco, you know. And it was very nice, you know, and met some amazing people who are very, very dedicated to restoration and learn about Texas has everything in it. It has woods, it has desert, it has sand, it has water, it has everything, and it has all the zones in it basically. So this is kind of a little preview of it's very bushy right now. In these pictures.
So this is when you're ready to let me know.
Go ahead.
I was just testing to see if the video
Yes.
works. So whenever you're ready for the video, let the video go. Okay.
Is that as I saw the degradation and the loss of the habitat and no wild birds, no lightning bugs, no butterflies, and all these in the horned toads, we used to have some here, that what we were doing was killing their habitat. And so I had to change my whole my way of thinking and rewild myself, rewild my thinking that I am dancing with nature and I am not dominating nature. I am a partner with. And that was a big breakthrough. I mean, I've always been that way, but I had to go farther. And so that's when permaculture, I've already studied permaculture just kind of at a distance. That's when I went to school. I've been to school 2 of their classes, advanced permaculture. And I'm getting ready to do the soil regeneration class with Matt. And Matt has moved to Texas. Matt Powers is in Texas. He's left California because of the drought and the fire, you know, the fires. So he's going to be out of Austin somewhere. I don't know where he's going to be. But
That's exciting.
I know. And it's
This is his new
A
room.
real life.
I was showing you this.
So if you, yeah, that's the class she's taking, and if you look on the back of the back where the back.
Yes, I stole the
I guess
book.
there's another. If you want to
I
pass it around, you're welcome to
Yeah.
pass it around.
This is an amazing book.
This
it's-
is his soil regeneration one, and we have 2 of his books on permaculture, the little class style books that we have.
Yes,
as
even
well.
has we have the elementary one for children. We have one.
I don't think I pulled that one, but we do have those, and we can get them if you want them. And so today, again, keeping the good bugs and harvesting seeds, they're sort of themes. And I just have to say, this is a really cool special effect I was able to do in PowerPoint. I was very excited.
She was really good with the camera. I just kind of wandered around.
Okay, so this is when she's talking about the sort of how it looks like a wildscape.
Yes, over the years, it was nothing but lawn. So I've been taking that lawn by, my first thing was I started planting buffalo grass. And to be I'm a registered habitat location. I have to have so many natural native grasses, native trees, and you have to have a habitat for nesting, feeding, water, and rearing young of all that's birds, bugs, butterflies, and small creatures, you know. And so a lot of people would look at this, they don't realize that this was planned. This is planted. This is big blue stem, little blue buffalo grass, wildflowers, hairy vetch, wild peas. And as you can see, I mow, the only thing I mow, because we kill lightning bugs when we mow. They live in the first 6 inches soil above. So when we first came here, there was just lightning bugs everywhere, and then the more people mowed, and the lower they mowed their lawns, the less lightning bugs, and even just, you know, little lace wings and little bugs that we need. We need everything. I'm going to refer really quickly to Germany right now. I have a friend in Germany. And Germany lost all of their insects. A lot of people don't know that. They have polluted themselves and exterminated. And when you lose your insects, you don't have life. You have to have insects. You have to have enzymes, you have to have mycorrhizomes, you have to have insects. It's all part of creation. And I called her, I said, "Are you and Mom okay?" I called her Mom. And they don't live where the floods were, but I mean, the dam broke and it just took out half of Germany. I don't know if you guys watched, but they're just underwater. And that all used to be wetlands. All of that, where the Rhine River came up, all of that used to be wetlands. And they built on it and put harbors, and you know, people get busy and start doing stuff. And I hope it returns to wetlands. You know, it's just devastating. But you know, because of certain, if I kind of keep an eye on what's happening around the world, I see that maybe there's something I can do on my little corner of the world. You know, and for me it was restoration, which we're seeing right here. You can see where the vine borer got my squash. See the dead leaves? It was a very pretty plant until the vine borers got it. Okay.
And then this is the firefly.
Firefly refuge. Yeah.
You have your rooster going. Yes, I'm at two things. One of the grasslands that, if you stand here, I just noticed these today. Stand here today,
This
you
area.
will see all these little bugs, low, flying. Those are fireflies. Really? Right, yes. They're red. They're actually not a fly. They're a beetle, right? Yes. So this area I've been working on for 4 years was a driveway, a gravel driveway. So I've tilled, I've dug, I've repurposed. Now I have two, they're hiding in all this on purpose. I have 2 figs and 2 native peach trees called honey peaches.
Every once in a while we see a fly.
Sunflowers. And the back ones are actually planted sunflowers. That back they're Hopi, a black Hopi for dye. They use them for dye. Ooh. And these are just wild, multi-stemmed, wild sunflowers that the birds plant. Oh, wow. Let's see them?
Yes, I see them flying around. They have cycled now. They aren't flying anymore. because they cycle at the end of July.
How far did you need to mow it?
If you can get your deck up 6 inches and above,
Wow.
yeah. You know, and what I do is I take my mower and I have a little electric mower, because we're solar. I just have this long damn cord I have to drag around, you know, and I crank it back. I don't let it lay down on the ground. I just keep it kind of reared back, and then I go along and like a lot of this is down now. Because with permaculture also, you want to replicate the natural flow as if bison or deer or, you know, grazers were coming through your property. So about this time, they would have come through this land, and they would have grazed and eaten. And so as soon as they start going to seed and the flowers are in their seed stage, I go and pick a bunch of them, and I get baskets full of wildflower seeds. And then you kind of go and you take it down. So you're kind of copying a natural cycle. That's one of the things that they learned with the droughts in Africa, is they thought the elephants were devastating it. And it wasn't, that they needed the elephants and they needed the water buffaloes to graze, because they continuously move. And as they move, they keep poop and do everything they do and leave dead and rear young and eat and graze, and that's feeding the soils.
I have a question about the vine borers.
Kids
So,
hate
there's
them.
good bugs, bad bugs. So what do you do when you have bugs like that, or the whatever those things are that get your tomatoes and stuff?
Okay, listen, vine borers really quick. Right now, you can replant in July because you're out of their cycle. And it's planting out of their cycle. If you can catch them soon enough, if you can, because they're a little black fly and they have some red on them. And you'll see them on your vines. If you can take and dump a bunch of soil or even bagged compost on those vines and cover them up. Sometimes the vines will recuperate and they'll finish, but usually once they get in, I've injected BT in and kind of got a little more life out of it. I take a needle and I draw BT up in it and go and inject it into, I just go to the feed store and grab a big old needle, you know, and inject it into the vine, and it kills the little worm.
What's BT?
BT is an inoculant, but it's not an overall, I forget the name of it, bacterium, yeah. It is it's considered an organic one to use, but we also have found that it really impacts butterflies. It kills butterfly larvae.
Oh.
So they say don't use it, it only has a certain day that it's active, a certain amount of days, and don't use it as a powder, because it has a sprinkling or a spray, but if you could inject it where nothing's going to get in there, that seemed to have worked, because we were standing there looking at our squash and there's one of them right there. We were watching it sting that vine and lay an egg.
Oh.
And so then the egg turns into a little worm, and that little worm cores out that vine, and pretty soon you have these beautiful vines, and then all of a sudden they're dead, and it looks like sawdust on the ground.
Wow.
Where their frass, their poop comes out, you know, and it looks like sawdust on the ground. Either you can cover them up with a couple inches of soil or compost and hope that it kind of smothers the vines and they keep going, or wait till July until you're out of the cycle. They are probably the worst.
Sorry.
They are probably that we have here, other than the grasshoppers right now.
Hello?
They're really bad grasshoppers right now. What was the other one? The other one was
Those
tomato worms.
the ones that squish green.
Okay, those are, I have a very affectionate relationship with tomato worms, the horned worm, because they are that great big huge moth.
Oh, really?
They are that huge moth.
Oh, they're really
And
cool
they're a
looking.
night moth. So I plant a lot of tomatoes, and I will actually use what's called a trap plant.
So you have sacrificial tomatoes.
Yes, I will cut them off and put them on my trap plant and say, this is where you're gonna live. Please don't come over here. And I might lose, because I don't prune so heavily. I prune a little bit on my tomatoes, just so that if there is a hornworm on it, then it can live its cycle out. Because I just realized I have to quit, that's part of my rewilding myself. I have to quit trying to annihilate everything, and how can I live
But they are
harmonious with
very
these?
fun to squish because it's like green slime when you squish them. If you've never done
Oh,
it,
and
I
they're
highly recommend
scary
it.
looking too. With
They
that
are
little-
scary. They
you know,
look like
they're
a monster.
You know, I know. Yeah.
So are the
Just
moths
saying.
are the moths like pollinators? Is that
Oh, yes,
what-
they're nighttime pollinators.
Ah.
And they're the big,
Can you see?
yeah, okay,
Thank you.
they're named kind of after the pyramids. They have an Egyptian name.
Oh.
Yes, and they're a huge moth. And they're just, when you look at the top of them, they look like a picture, look like leaf patterns. Yes.
Oh, that's cool.
And that's why we have white flowers at night that bloom at night, because that's where the night pollinators go.
The moonflowers?
Moonflowers.
I have huge moonflowers.
Yes, they're really good right now, aren't
Oh,
they?
yeah.
Well, I guess you could see the caterpillars you didn't get. You could see their
Oh,
yes,
moths
right, yes.
pollinating your flowers.
I guess it's learning how to live, if they're eating too much,
They haven't been a problem for me this year, which is kind of a bummer because it's always fun to find one and squish it.
Yes, right, right.
Do we do this one?
Okay, even on my postage stamp permaculture homestead here, it's taken me several years, but I can now have surplus by overplanting and composting and feeding the soil and restoring the soil, that I don't have to go out and bring in. So that makes it truly
That's true
sustainable coming
sustainability.
in. So
You
it
want to
feeds
pause
on
it for a
itself.
minute? Want to stop it for a
And
minute?
plus, I have
Trish,
enough to feed us to
That is one of the words, I kind of bring it up in my columns, is that people throw around that word sustainability, but the true sustainability is that you don't go out and bring it in. You are sustaining within yourself. And so they'll throw out words, oh, this is sustainable, this is, well, no, you brought it in on a truck from China, and it is a sustainably grown bamboo, but yet you're still not in that word, You're, it's more of an environmental, consciousness word that they're kind of looking for. But so, I'm kind of arguing around using the word sustainable. I still will bring in potting mix to start my plants, organic starter mix for starting inside, because I have a problem with a little bit of fungus and stuff getting on my little starts, and I don't like that. So, but we grow so much now that I don't have to go and go to the dump and get wood chips, or, for the first couple of years I was having wood chips dropped off, and I was going, collecting leaves from people, and I do not rake leaves. I let leaves come down and they fall, and that's where they stay. I will only rake a path, because I don't want to venture into snake territory, And I make little safe avenues for anybody to walk in. But everything now is, my daughter and I, because a lot of this got mowed down. We were walking and I said, Summer, do you notice the soil now? When we first moved here, it was like walking on concrete. Now it's soft and spongy. It's soft.
Do you
And
have
that's what you
stickers?
want. Not a lot. I go after them with a hoe and a bucket. And I take them out and I throw them, I call it the big composter, the trash can.
Yeah.
Yeah, so every year I go along and I get those bullhorns and all those,
Yeah,
those, with a hoe and a bucket. And then I throw them in the big trash can. But it's taken a couple years. Because once they one of the things that happen, if you have your lawn mowed by someone and they do not blow off their mower, like with an air, they're bringing their seeds in. I had none, and I had somebody come and mow, and all of a sudden I had all these khaki thorns, and which are very prolific. And I was like, why do I have these? And I was watching the mowers, and then I started doing some research. So the mowers will carry them in the mowers.
Totally makes sense, yeah.
Yes, they're bringing and those weeds stick to anything. I mean, they get gobbled up in there, and so they're just spreading them around. Unless you get somebody who will actually clean off their mower. There's a lot of them won't do that. They think you're wackadoodle just for even asking. No, seriously.
Yeah, I know, yeah.
Well, then you should clean off your own mower if you are
Mhm.
mowing those things.
Right.
And I burn it all.
Yes.
Because I don't want them to come back.
Right.
But, so
Use
I'm
it.
collecting them.
Yes.
Anywhere that I see a lot of those, I just put my leaf saver on, or.
Right.
Or,
I throw
Some
them
people
on my
use a
bird.
grass.
torch or, yeah, right.
so let me ask, I wanna back up a minute, because you said you go around and pick your, the seeds.
For seed saving. Oh, yes,
But, okay, so why don't you just, I mean, why do you need to save those seeds that you want to come back every year? I mean, they're usually just dropped and then they just come
Yeah,
back?
they do, and I don't take them home.
Okay,
I use them, I make a mix to give away for our
okay.
seed library here.
And then you, okay, but you don't necessarily save them to plant in the spring?
Sometimes I will. If I have a bare patch, if I have something that I think is not, needs a little help, I will mix compost
Mhm.
and then I put a couple handfuls of seeds in it and I stir it around and then I broadcast it just by hand. And I walk on it and I spray it down and get it damp so I can do some patches
Okay.
and kind of, fill in. Because every once in a while things will cycle and they'll die out. Things happen, they terminate. They're going to be there forever. And some years we'll have a lot of the, what do they call it? The Indian blankets. We had a lot of Indian blankets this year.
You did?
Yeah, I did.
I don't know
And in
about
some areas
that.
didn't have any.
I didn't have any.
Right.
So you could harvest some
You
if
could
you had a
save
good
those,
year
right.
and hold them. How would you store them?
Right now I put them in a basket.
Okay.
They're in a basket. I let everything dry really
Dry.
good.
Okay.
And then I prefer jars. When you put something in a Ziploc bag, you just almost immediately go moldy, no matter how dry you make it. But with a nice big glass jar, it might be an old mayonnaise jar that I washed out, whatever, any kind of jar that's gonna keep the bugs out, I like jars. And plus I can see it and I label it and I try to put the date.
But you don't do that until they're really dry.
Yes, really dry. And with our wildflowers, they'll turn like a dandelion, they'll turn to a puff, almost like a lettuce. Lettuces go until they have a puff, and that's when you harvest lettuce. And I got a lot of lettuce seeds this year.
Now we have some
I
pictures of things
I
that you
have a 50-pound bag. I haven't processed yet.
Wow.
Now, let me ask
Lettuce.
you this about the flowers. So if I just let the seeds drop,
Yes,
but if I put compost on top of those,
that's fine.
is it to be too thick? to put
You don't want to
compost?
smother them. The golden rule is 2 inches.
Yeah,
Yes,
So
even
it
when
would be
you
okay
do a
around.
raised bed, you do an in-ground garden, when you shift season, it's 2 inches of compost. That's the golden rule.
okay.
So,
Because I noticed 3 inches kills.
yes, you go into suffocation, right. And 90% of all cells starts with soil, 90% of soil is air. 90% of our cells, our atoms, or everything, are air, oxygen. So that once you start pressing down that oxygen out, that natural process can't happen. It has to have air.
But using plain compost, about 2 inches, it'll
Yep.
be, if it covers
Yep.
seeds, it's okay.
Yep, that's
That's good.
that nobody wants, that they consider trash, like the feeders. Waters, kettle waters, they rotted out.
Yeah, somebody
shot
brought
holes
me
in them,
those.
They're going to the dump.
somebody shot holes in
and
them,
brought them
like
by.
2 of them.
And so I have made raised beds out of them that work really good because I'm on granite outside. But I had to go, there's a lot of soil in there. So these 2 little ones, even though they're in shade, will still grow a lot of food. Nobody. I harvested mulberries off this year, and I made mulberry mead. You also said you could use them for, they're edible, they're wonderful. They're nitrogen fixing, you can use them for composting, and they're just beautiful. Look at them, they're soft, no prickles or thorns on them, and they grow rapidly. And they
I love the mulberry. It is one of my favorite trees right now.
It's been our childhood purple.
Yes.
We go ahead
Yes.
and eat them.
I harvested mulberries.
And the painted buntings like the mulberries.
Oh, yes.
In the back. And which is wood and compost and leaf litter and all kinds of stuff. This is flowers coming in, zinnias coming in. This is, let's see if you can see about this. This is cress, one of the most nutrient-dense plants you can grow. So I have seeds from it. But look in here, I got mushrooms. And those are from our mushroom grower next door. See them right there? And those are oyster mushrooms, which we can eat.
Ooh.
They're delicious.
He gives those
They
away.
just flew over? No, I brought
He gives the blocks that
He
he
gives
gives
away
blocks.
the blocks that he grows in.
I love those.
So you can see the block right there and they're growing off of it.
Oh, yeah.
I want one.
Oh, you can come over and we'll go and get some. Usually he has this mountain of them.
So what did you say that plant was?
Cress. It's
C-R-E-S-T?
like watercress, yes. I got a little bit of seed, it wasn't really productive. It's spicy, just like watercress,
It's raining.
but it's one of those super duper foods. And look, it grew, I started it in a pot, and I transplanted it out here, and it found a happy spot here. And just like a handful of it in a salad, it's peppery and spicy, you know, and, but it's like eating kale or one of those other nutrient-dense cresses high up on the list. And it grows very good here. So when you go seed searching, if you go to like Baker Creek or, you know, just type in cress. And it looks like it's powdery fine black seeds, like tobacco seeds, or like flour. But so, again, mix them with some fine sand or some soil, and then, you know, spread them out that way and pat them down. Don't try to go deep in the soil with them. They're kind of a surface plant, those fine seeds.
Do them in shade, they're in the shade.
Yeah, they're semi-shade right here. They're digging it.
Yes, I like everything, just like nature, like you're growing the forest floor and what grows in nature. And I let some nature things be in there, and then I plant some things. So, and I save all the seeds. These are all seeds that I have saved over the last 10 years that are now back in, even the tomatoes.
What are the bugs you try to keep in as part of nature?
The bugs,
The bugs.
The bugs?
like to combine. Itself, these are baby blue eyes, these little wild ones. And then there's a wild blackberry hiding. You see that really green leaf?
Uh-huh.
That's
You
blackberry.
said that,
Yeah, it's
but I
right there. You
didn't
can hardly
know.
see it.
In the
It's
back.
by that grain barrel, that little right.
Yeah, because I was like, uh-huh, but I was like, no, it's all green leaves.
And the other plant right here is another historical plant here. It's a Turk's cap. And right there is Turk's cap, and that's a red one. And then the woman, Purrier was her last name, she was with the Lady Bird Foundation, and she loved Turk's cap and kind of brought Turk's cap back. And she developed pink, and I have her pink Purrier one. I only have one small one, yeah.
So what
But
is
these will kind of go wild. They'll just kind of replant themselves, and they have a beautiful little red, you'll see it. And then they make like a little apple, which is edible. I mean, you'd have a lot of them.
Is that the
They're
Turk's
very
cap?
seedy.
It'll make an apple?
Yes, it makes like a little apple, and it's really seedy, but, you know, I love to learn how to forage.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. And they're another soft, wonderful plant, you know, it's just.
That's the big leaves one.
I let them go brown, and then I just take my weed eater, honestly, and just go over and let them lay. And if they get too skinny, I crush them, chop them up a little more, run the mower on them, and put them in the composter if it gets too heavy. Because sometimes in small areas with a lot of woody material, it'll get kind of oppressive to the soil, you know, because it needs to have soil contact, and if it's sitting up too high. So you just kind of gauge it as you go.
Itself, these are baby blue eyes.
That's another native here in Texas.
And
Artemisia, right
also
there.
in here, you'll see it, is hairy vetch, which is part of my blend that I overcrop with. And I'm working to not have to buy the seed. So, see this purple? Yeah, that is, I actually had an old rancher come by and open his door and get out and cuddle this plant.
It's a pea.
And say, this is hairy vetch. I used to plant this, I haven't seen it in years. And it's this beautiful little pea. It's in the pea family, right here.
That purple one.
So it's got these little soft leaves and these beautiful little flowers, little trumpet, like little.
I kind of know.
I get to hear how the plants hear me.
Yes, that's one of the things she said. I was like, I like And so what do those bring to the environment? What do they?
Those are
they feed?
nitrogen fixing. Anything that's in the pea family, peas, heck, you know, any kind of pea. I've even thrown out old pea seeds that are past their planting due date, you know, and I mix them in. But hairy vetch is another one that is, and clovers. Red clover or any kind of clover. There's an Australian pea that's really good for putting in your fall mix, because you want to do this kind of stuff as soon as we come into that early winter time, and that's when you want to plant your wildflower seeds too. And when I started planting wildflowers, I would go with my shovel, because all I had was grass, and I'd dig a thing and I'd drop seeds in it, and I'd back off and step, and I'd take another step and I'd dig a hole, just kind of crack the soil and drop seed in it. So I'd go back and forth across this property for 2 or 3 years until the flowers started just taking over. Yeah, yeah.
So now we're going into Jane's
Backyard.
backyard area, and she's, as you can see, she's got a number of raised beds with a variety of things in there that it's kind of a combination of you do harvesting and harvesting seeds,
Right,
you know, both at the same time. So there's that one. I don't know if you're going to talk about any of these guys or.
Yeah, okay, so these beds you're looking at, see the yellow, it's gone now. That was mullein. And the yellow flower is what, you pick the flower, they flower every morning, and they fall off. So I go out there and I take a basket and I just collect it, and that's what you put in olive oil for earaches. When you buy organic earache oil, that's what it is. It's that yellow flower,
Oh.
mullein flower. And then mullein leaves, people will take it and put them in bags and breathe it for asthma, relieve asthma, just to breathe the
What kind of flower is that?
mullein.
Mullein.
Yeah, mullein. It's got a big fuzzy leaf and a big long stalk, and that one I actually had to prop, but I leave the base, it'll get about this big, and I just cut it off above the base and throw that, because it spins really fast. I mean, it gets done. It goes in the composter, and the chickens kind of take care of it. So these raised beds here, I had low ones, and I have gotten to the point where I can't squat down anymore. I get on the ground, I can't get up. My knees are shot, you know. And I'm out there running around like, somebody help me up. You know, it's humiliating. So actually John Newell had all his first and second cut cedar that was trash to him. He didn't want it. So I hired somebody with a trailer, and we went out there and he gave us stacks of it. And old roofing, somebody's roof got, you know, hit with a storm, and they had all this stacked up metal roofing. And so we did roofing, and then this second cut cedar and post in between. So now my raised beds are 2.5 feet tall. And I had all my old raised beds, we just dug and put out there, and then I hugelkulture me, and I put limbs and stems and sticks and twigs in the bottom, which causes a sponge. It draws moisture and it gets spongy. And you want that to bring the mycorrhizomes in, and then soil, and then every year I just keep adding compost and soil. And I do not use hay anymore. I only use alfalfa because of the broadleaf spray that now doesn't go away, and it kills anything broadleaf. That's your garden. It won't compost. I wrote an article about it. I have that column.
That's what everybody uses.
Yes, but alfalfa isn't a grass. Alfalfa is a legume, and they don't spray it on alfalfa.
What
So-
is it that they spray on it?
It's a broadleaf herbicide.
Yeah.
You know which one?
Yes, and I'd have to think of it. It's by Dow. Dow makes it.
I think it's in your last workshop, we have it somewhere.
Yeah, and actually, I used the picture off the jar. I was at the feed store, and I said, I need a roll of hay for compost, for mulch. He said, oh, wait, are you going to use it in your garden? If you're using it in your garden, we can't sell it to you, because that does not compost out. You will kill your whole garden, and we cannot sell it to you. And the growers have to tell them what kind of chemicals they're using. Really good ones will do that. One woman came and said, I've been feeding my horse it, now it's got cancerous sores on it. It'll go through the animal and it's still toxic. It will not compost out. And so we don't use, I used to even go out to the event center and shovel horse poop, and I won't do that anymore because of the hay issues. So I only use alfalfa.
What if the hay's from just around here and they don't spray it?
Then then you're okay. But you gotta make sure that you know.
So what about the alfalfa? How are you using the?
We're using that as as a compost layer. What happens, we use it bedding in our chickens. Okay, so we clean out our nesting box once a week. And they poo and pee in it, while they're nesting, and then that goes in a heap, and it's a low raised bed, and I turn it once in a while. And then that gets flipped up and that becomes my 2 inches. Okay, that becomes my 2 inches of compost.
Okay.
But
So-
alfalfa is very expensive, and we got into a really bad problem with shipping and people not being able to get the seeds they needed and stuff, And so we just happened to walk in and $70 for 4 bales of alfalfa.
Wow.
So I'm like, oh, that's my budget for my garden this month.
So what about straw?
Can't find it. Straw is basically okay because it's wheat.
Even the pressed straw?
Well, I would make sure,
Pressed.
yeah,
Because they have it at Tractor Supply.
yeah, I would make sure that it doesn't have that broadleaf spray on it. But see, I've asked, in order to get straw in Texas, I have to go to Bertram, I have to go to South Austin, maybe. They just don't grow it. Now, we used to get sorghum, because Texas is like the biggest sorghum grower in the nation. And we used to get the sorghum straw after they'd harvest the tops, and they'd bale it up. But he died, and the kids won't grow it anymore. And it was wonderful. Oh God, that sorghum was big and leafy, and it had all its grains in it, and it was really nice. So, the thing is, you need to talk. We need to talk to people. We need to communicate.
Networking.
Find out, yes, and find out who's got what, and just by growing extra grass and cutting it back and just letting it lay, I've created a situation where I don't have to go and buy it and worry. Save that, kind of made windrows in it when I had a lot of grass, and put it in my feed bags, and we use that in the winter for our chickens for their nesting boxes. It's how much work do you want to do?
I thought one of the things that was really interesting when we were talking with me is you were pointing out, when you go back, there were, you're doing the harvesting and a whole array of different things in your where you're planting in your beds, but you also mentioned you often have to think about sort of an interdependent life cycle, that you have to, when you're thinking about what you're planting, what next to your planting,
Yes, that's right.
that some of them need friends, like pecan tree or something needed to be grown, mesquite trees need to be grown next to something else.
Yes, cactus. In Arizona, the great big saguaros have to have a mesquite tree to grow it when they drop the seed, and they will outgrow, because they're hundreds of years old, but they'll outgrow that mesquite tree, but they aren't going to grow unless they have a companion.
And so
What are
bluebonnets
the
also need
The
certain kinds
saguaro
of
cactus in Arizona,
Oh.
yes, they have to have a companion.
And you were saying something about bluebonnet seeds.
Okay,
You
we have
didn't-
bluebonnets right there,
Yeah.
bluebonnet seeds.
Uh-huh.
And you can see they're the gray, look like a pea, they're fuzzy. And then right next to it is a native pecan tree that I started. And it's cleared out around now. I've kind of cleared out the soil around, or the debris, and pulled the woods, because it was getting a little choked out. But in nature, trees and different plants need cohabitation. And even oak trees need cedars. And I know that's probably step on some people, they hate cedars, and mesquites. But you see, cedars and mesquites are the first that come in. And they come in and they prepare the way for the oaks to come in. That's just how nature works with that. And as oaks need those mesquites, and those cedars prepare the mycorrhizomes in the soil to build up the layers of the soil. There was several years ago, we had a young guy come in and he did a program at the theater, and he showed his whole rainwater collection. It was massive, thousands of acres that he was doing. And he would cut down cedar, but he would leave it lay for years. And he went out there, and in 2 years there were oak trees coming up around where the cedars were down. And he would selectively, he wouldn't just clear cut. And then he had more springs arrive as he started kind of taking down some of the cedars and let the oaks come in and let some mesquites come in. He was kind of dancing with it, like I'd say. He had kind of really was thinking like nature and watching. And spring started coming back. There was more depth, squishiness to the soil, not that hard concrete feel like you walk on some property. It's like walking on a street, you know. So yes, trees, they need companions. And if you see one, maybe it's not doing too good, maybe you need to clear it away. There might be something in there that's kind of bothering it.
But you can take those the branches and just scatter them around.
Yeah, yes.
That just is.
Yeah. Every young tree gets a branch at my house. And it's usually an elm that's broken and fallen down in a storm, or my elm tree that will break. I mean, it is quadrupled in size. We have pictures. You can almost put your arms around it, and now it's massive. And that's just compost. That's just letting nature be its thing, you know? So each young tree now gets a limb that's broke down. Because within that limb, there's insects, there's worms, there's moisture, there's that sponging effect where the wood draws moisture and holds it for that young tree. You ever see anybody with a bare yard and they have one tree? How good are they? They usually don't make it. So they need some grasses, they need native plants, they need native flowers around them. And I think they have personalities. I mean, honestly, you know, I talk to all my plants, and it's like, where do you want to live? You know, I'm going to write a book about this one, but I found an apricot tree. Remember Alco? Remember when we went to Alco? Mm-hmm. And they had some little trees for sale in little pots, and I drove up to Alco to get something, you know, wasn't planet related. And there was this little tree rolling around in a storm in the parking lot. And I went over and I picked it up, and it was just looked like a dead stick, and it was an apricot. I took it in and I paid money for it. I took it home and I went, boy, this is wasted money. And so I brought it home. They said, where do you want to live? And it showed me where I wanted to live, and it is the most beautiful. I canned 18 quarts of apricots.
Wow.
Beautiful, big
This
apricots
year?
this year. Yes.
So the cold,
Yes.
the cold didn't kill your the blooms?
Nope. Mm-mm. Now, I have a lot of cover. I have a lot of mimosas, which are also a native, and they are a nitrogen fixing plant. And mimosas were traditionally used in cattle rearing, and it was called pollarding. And they would come through and they would cut them like 4 foot high, just whack them off like that, so that they'd branch out here, and when they push the cattle through, they could eat it. Okay, it's called pollarding. And so, but they eat the leaves and the stems and everything, and they're nitrogen fixing. And often mimosas were done in lines, where they would pollard them, they would give them a good haircut, and the cattle would come through and graze off of them. So I have a lot of mimosas. In fact, a lot of them are going out to other people as gifts.
I would like a mimosa gift.
I'm going to give you some.
I need some.
And you know, it's kind of considered like a trash tree to a lot of people, but it's not. I mean, they grow fast, they grow big, and the flowers are
They make
medicinal.
pink fuzzies.
Yes.
They're
Yeah.
pink fuzzy trees.
That's like hackberry. People hate hackberry, and I just don't understand why people hate hackberry. In order to have a habitat preserve, you have to have a certain amount of hackberry.
And that
Because
draws
they
in
are
the wagon.
essential.
You get a flock of waxwings come
That's
through.
right. You have hackberry, right?
Yes.
Yes.
And I
Yeah.
love it.
So
will go on, so now.
Oh, yeah, and trees put out a hormone. That's interesting, just one other thing.
Yeah.
I learned this when we were master gardeners out at the preserve, or Lady Bird Johnson. And this woman was doing a program we were watching, and I was always suspicious of this. Because I watched trees inhale and exhale in the mountains. In the morning, trees exhale and it looks like mist. That's trees exhaling, especially if you're in like Oregon and you're in a heavy forest and you'll see that mist, that fog come through, and you'll see it here sometimes. That's trees are exhaling, okay?
I've seen the carpet breathe.
Yes,
Of course, I was hallucinating at the time.
that's all right. I had those mushrooms too. And she said that trees put out a hormone that called the rain. They actually have taken pictures of an effluent that the trees that are stressed, they will put out like a scent or something, and they will send it up in the air, and it actually makes it rain. It calls for the rain. They also put out a hormone when they're in stress, and that's when the borers come. The bugs will come to them too. So it's a two-way deal, you know.
So, what about a horse herb? I've got tons of it.
Of what?
It's a horse herb, it's up and they just.
Yes.
So, and it grows under my oak trees.
Yeah.
And I'm sure that must be helping them because
Oh, yeah.
I don't have any cedar.
Right. Yes, because the cedar probably already died off if your oaks are pretty dead.
Oh, they're huge.
Yes, they're old.
I have about 8.
Yeah. So this is, we're seeing wild lettuce and blanket flowers in seed right here. So I will come through with my basket and I won't take them all, but I'll just start picking these seed tops. See, they're fuzzy, and for later use. So I'm showing you.
How long
the
will you
seed
save
pods.
seeds for? Like, how long?
You know, they can last for years.
Really?
I planted
Yeah.
some 50-year-old watermelon seeds that I found that were my grandpa's. They didn't work.
Yes, sometimes they're too old.
That's
They're
cool
really
though
hard.
that you found.
I tried, you know, learned a lot.
Yeah. You know, if they would have if they were deep frozen, like up in the
Yeah.
Arctic. You know, Texas has seeds in the Arctic. Actually, they have collected seeds from around the world. And the little boy named Tommy Toe, he grew his grandma's cherry tomatoes for years. And they call them Tommy Toes, little bitty red cherry tomatoes. And they are in the salt guard deep freeze from Texas.
Wow.
So all of our seeds, our flowers, our grasses. Of course, we used to be the big blue. We were the prairie. And when they started building roads and everything started happening, they started scraping out the grass, which they didn't think was important, which happened in the Dust Bowl. Okay, so we're going to be putting out some wild seeds, that were brought in by a collector, with some big blue and some. Okay, so who knows what the Texas state grass is?
Not a clue.
Come on, side oats. Oh.
What's it called?
Side oats. It looks like an oat, but they only grow on one side of the stalk.
Oh,
Right.
I didn't know that.
So
So did we want to also
Yeah.
put in a plug here for bringing, like if people do have extra seeds, to bring them into our seed
Oh, yes,
library?
yes. Just have them named and where they were grown and the date. That's it.
So these are just some of the things she has in her back. Actually, I have dozens. We could actually probably do another one just on what's in her back area that she does to keep things rolling. But these are just some of the things.
I'm trying to do
Starting
bees.
bees.
Somebody donated a bee thing and I didn't have the time or whatever to get, to buy a nook to start the bees. And I was just hoping that maybe some bees would find me. You never know. You never
So-
know. That's right.
These are some websites, and Jade can talk a little bit more about them, but these are some places that you can go. There's a firefly.org if you're interested in learning more about how to turn your area into a firefly sanctuary kind of thing. The Texas.gov one is where you can get a certificate for your backyard or for your other to-do refuge.
Or your ranch or whatever.
Uh-huh.
Mhm.
Yeah, your ranch or your yard. Wildflower.org is the Lady Bird Johnson Wildflower Center with a lot of native plants. They also have a lot of, they have a searchable database so that if you're trying to find plants that are good for your area, you can actually go through their database. And then Matt Powers, again, we have a number of his books. And I'm going to kind of throw it open to questions for Jannie that you may still have. And then anybody that wants to, we can go on a little tour. You can see the seed library. And you can check out some of the other books that we have there that she may recommend if you have questions about
They even
books to
have
start with.
a certification for habitat to bring back the horned toad. It's Texas horned lizard, it's not truly a toad. I did write a column about that, and if you have harvester ants, don't poison them, they're their food. And it's because they randomly poison all ants because of the influx of fire ants, which are non-native. Then everybody's poisoning all the ants, and they kill off the harvesters, a big flat. And you'll see them, they're packing stuff, you know, and in fact, I will cut down some of my sunflowers and stuff and throw them on their area, and they'll be gone in days. They will harvest that and pull it down.
Cool.
And my daughter now has a horned toad, because she has of course, so we got one, we got more. And so I said, do not poison this, do not put a nose down that, I'm gonna have your ass. I mean, seriously, you know? And so she goes, no, we'll leave it alone. She has a relatively new house, we got a lot and built a new house. And I was standing on the patio, and there he was, sitting right there on the handrail. And I went, oh, you know what that is? She goes, yeah, it's a big old lizard, what is it? I go, that's a Texas horned toad. She goes, yeah, he's very friendly. He comes up here and hangs out. And so they actually have some of them got shut down because of COVID, but I'm hoping they're kind of come back up, that you can get certified to be a habitat, and it's the same thing, kind of requirements. Sometimes they ask you to buy a sign for 10, 15 bucks, kind of puts money back into their system.
I wanted to ask you about that because I put it online. The property we bought they had goats on it, so it ate down everything, so we're trying to bring some of that back.
Yeah.
And I shouldn't have said that.
Those are dinosaur bones in my house.
I'll think of it in a minute.
Those are dinosaur bones.
Cool.
Oh,
I didn't know what they were, and Texan had to tell me what they were.
Apparently a lot of people in Llano have
I
it in
don't
their
have
houses.
dinosaur bones, yes.
I think that's cool.
okay, I was checking to see if the wildflower habitat, not the wild habitat.
Lady Bird Johnson's.
No,
Oh,
on, you know how you can have an ag exemption?
yes.
And, but you had to have a lot of acreage, I have 5 acres,
Yes.
but I have an ag exemption.
Right.
And
I don't
so-
need an ag exemption because I'm just 3 corner lots. But to get an ag exemption, you can also put bee, like that stackable bee thing, you have to have at least 5. You have to have something that's going to promote nature to get an ag
And we
exemption.
have a couple of hives, but the
They don't even have to be working, I don't think. You know, I think, there's
Just have a hive.
Yeah.
That'd be good.
If no one's ever seen a moon calendar, I brought mine.
Ooh.
And this is through Seed Savers, and we're affiliated with Seed Savers here. And so you go to your, I just love this one. We need one here,
Okay.
one of these here. So you go, because it changes monthly, it's continuous. So the new moon, which is a dark moon, was on the 9th. So you put that little black dot on the 9th, and then it tells you all the dates, what is best to cultivate, to prune, to harvest, do things in the ground, out of the ground. And I tell you, I started doing this a couple years ago. My grandfather did this. He was always watch the moon. I mean, the farmer's almanac was in his pocket. And I still use the almanac. And so, you get to the last day of the month and then you check. You can go online, or, if you have a moon calendar, they'll tell you. So you change the date, whatever it is, you put the black dot there and it tells you the best thing to do during that time. I'll pass it around. I just love my lunar calendar. And I tell you, I'm not a tomato grower. I could really kind of care less. And I grew tomatoes one tomato was in the pounds. I'm not kidding. It was,
Wow.
it was absolutely phenomenal. They saved every seed from it.
That's
For those who want to grow great tomatoes, who will we'll have tomatoes going right now. And right now you can cut suckers off your tomatoes and put them in water and start for fall. Let them get rooted up and then put them in some soil and then they can go out. So you'll have a second crop. What we do find here is that we'll have a flush of growth and we'll have a lot of green tomatoes. Because of that first, November 4th is our first frost here, which is unusual, but who knows?
Right.
Nothing is as it's supposed to, as it was anymore. So, you kind of keep track of, I become a weather watcher. I have it on my phone. I'm always watching the temps. And if I see it's pushing 32 is your first frost, it's freezing. All the water gets turned off, all the hoses come off, and I pick anything that needs to come in. All right now, I don't mess around. It comes in. It comes in. So that's.
Jane, I have one just a quick question related to good bugs or bad bugs or whatever. What's a general rule of thumb about spiders? I mean, I don't, we don't kill them, but I know some of them are.
Aminophyline is the chemical name. Sorry, I just remembered it.
Amino?
Aminophyline is the name of the chemical of that broadleaf fertilizer, or not fertilizer, broadleaf
Pesticide?
killer, aminophyline. Spiders. Be nice to spiders.
Yes.
We graciously invite them in a jar and go outside. We let some of them come in. We had so many flies this year. I don't know if anybody else had horrible flies. We actually bought a zapper. We have two in the house. One set by the kitchen sink and one by the dining room table. And I said, well, it doesn't go zit, zit, it doesn't do all that. But I tell you, it reduced our amount of flies. We're like, what is dead in this house? I couldn't believe the flies were horrible. So horrible.
And the
Wasn't
spiders
just
will
me.
usually eat the flies?
The flies, yes, the spiders.
Are there any spiders in our area that are particularly nasty we have to be careful
We have
about?
black widows, and they're usually in where you turn off and on your water outside. You'll find black widows in there. We do have some brown recluses, and so anything that has brown and has marks down at the back, you carefully remove those and take them out.
Okay.
Daddy long legs are nothing. They don't do anything.
yeah.
Those are good spiders. I have a book called The Good Spider Book,
Oh,
and I thought we had one here. We have one over here, but it's a yellow book, and it's it tells you this insects that are predatory to the bad ones.
Oh, okay. Now we take them back outside.
Yes. Yes.
But some of them, you're just like, oh, is that even a good idea? But we take them back out, but it's just like, if I take out a brown recluse spider, am I setting it off onto a neighbor or anything?
Well, there is that because they're territorial. A lot of things are territorial, but it's better than squishing it, in my opinion. Maybe let it live somewhere out there. No. Yes. I have, I try to knock down all the red wasp nest around the house.
Yeah.
But what they do is those wasps eat that larva of the worm that eats my pecans. So I want some wasps. They eat that, they're predatory. So once I started not killing all the wasp nests, because I was like, I put my hoe or my, whatever, I was like, because they were bombarding us. They're getting really aggressive, and they're coming after you. As soon as you make a little rustling sound or a noise, here they come. And my eye is watering for some reason. And so once I kind of realized that this was my limit for wasp nest, then they could be out there. Then I didn't have as much. Only 1 year did I have webworms in my pecan trees.
Right. Yeah, we have some wasps that, they live underground, it looks like, those little black ones.
Oh, those are mud daubers.
Mud daubers. And then we have some other wasps, and as long as they don't get on the eaves of the house.
Right.
Because I know they kill.
They're very sneaky.
Yeah.
All of a sudden you don't have any, and then you have a wasp nest. It's like, when did you do that? I must have been sleeping. Another thing is that 2 years ago we had those blister beetles. and they were everywhere, and they're a big gray bug, and if they get on you, they urinate or puke or something, I don't know.
Ew.
But they scald you, it's like acid, and they're called a blister beetle. And they're actually, will look like you've been burned, make like a blister on it, on skin. And they were, somebody brought me, Kristen Adams, she brought a video on her phone. She goes, look at this. And blister beetles ate a complete tomato plant in a matter of seconds.
Wow.
There were so many on them. They just went, and it was horrible to watch. And she goes, I know you got them. And I said, I don't have one of these. I don't have one. And so she goes, you're lying to me. Everybody's got them. They're everywhere. And I said, well, I'm going to go out and look. And I took my book, and I didn't find any blister beetles. I didn't find a one on our property. So I was watering my asparagus, and all of a sudden, I see these bugs come up to the top of the asparagus, because I was watering down here, and the bugs came up to the top, and I'd never seen this bug before. So I went and got my book, and it was a large bug, and it had wings, and it had little dots, like little tattoos, down its side, white dots,
Mm-hmm.
and it was called a wheel bug, W-H-E-E-L. Well, guess what the wheel bug eats? Blister bug larva.
Oh.
That's why I didn't have any blister bugs.
Oh.
I had wheel bugs.
Do
And
they
now my
have
daughter
like
comes
little rhinoceros?
No, I know those. Those are good ones too.
Yeah, yeah.
Yes. Those are like, they eat everything. And ladybugs, you want those for aphids and
yes.
stuff too, But that was a really kind of got me into getting this book. A woman wrote this book, Good Bug Book.